Growing up with books in India. Growing up as the child of middle class parents in urban India in the late 1950s and 60s meant growing up with books. Television did not exist in the Bombay of my boyhood. I read copiously, rapidly, and indiscriminately. Chronic asthma often confined me to bed, but I found so much pleasure in the books piled up by my bedside that I stopped resenting my illness. Soon, reading became the central focus of my existence. There was not a day in my childhood that did not feature a book. One year, I kept a list of the volumes I had finished, hoping to reach 365 before the calendar did. I made it before Christmas. An abiding memory is of my mother coming into my room around 11 every night and switching off the light. Sometimes I would wait for my parents to fall asleep in their room, then surreptitiously switch my light on again to finish the book they had interrupted. When I was still young, my mother would read to me from the naughty books of Enid Blyton. By the time I was 3, my mother moved to Blyton's other stories. When I outgrew Noddy, there were Enid Blyton fairy tales, nursery fantasies, and retold legends. By 7, I started on her thrilling mysteries of the 5 Find Others. By 8, I discovered her tales of British boarding school life, midnight feasts, and all. By 9, I was launched on the adventures of the famous 5 and of 4 intrepid British teenagers in another series that always had the word adventure in its titles, like The Ship of Adventure, The Castle of Adventure, and so on. My post-colonial generation read her books entranced by her extraordinary storytelling skills and quite indulgent of her stereotypes. After 200 years of the Raj, Indian children know instinctively how to filter the foreign, to appreciate the best in the things British and not take the rest seriously. For colonialism gave us a literature that did not spring from our own environment and whose characters, concerns, and situations bore no relation to our own lives. This didn't bother us in the slightest. A Bombay child read Blyton the same way a Calcutta kindergarten sang Jingle Bells without ever having seen snow or sleigh. If the stories were alien, we weren't alienated. They were to be read and enjoyed, not mined for relevance. Blyton, Bunter, Biggles, that insidious imperialist Macaulay had done his work too well, his policies spanning a breed of Indians, the language of whose education made them a captive market for the British imagination. What about Indian books? Sadly, I suffered a major handicap. My parents' peripatetic life. I was born in London, grew up in Bombay, and would move to Calcutta before I turned 13. My parents' peripatetic life cut me off from the literature of my mother tongue, Malayalam. As with other children of migratory Indians, English became the language not only of my school books but of my private life. I played with my friends in English, quarrelled with my sisters in English, wrote to my relatives in English, and read for pleasure in English. The government sponsored Children's Book Trust began publishing subsidized books for Indian children during the 1960s, but their quality was erratic and could not match the allure of their imported competitors. The Amar Chitra Katha series, which retells myths, legends, and historical stories in attractive comics and has Indianized the sensibilities of its readers in a manner unavailable to me when I was growing up in India. But English did give me access to a broader world. Before I was 13, I had read English translations and competent abridgments of Camus, Chekhov, Dostoevsky, Hermann Hesse, and Tolstoy. Mark Twain and Melville's Moby Dick, also adapted for younger readers, brought America to us, but in our daily reading, the United States did not fare as well as the former colonial power. The classroom, with its British-inspired curriculum, was a rich source of inspiration. At the age of 9, I was reading Lamb's Tales from Shakespeare. At 10, Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist, both unabridged, and the Shakespeare himself, mildly expurgated, made an appearance on the syllabus when I was 11. In the same year, an otherwise detestable teacher dictated a passage from P.G. Wodehouse as a spelling test and launched me on the first great passion of my life. It took me some 7 years to find and finish all 95 of the master's books, but the pleasure he gave will last a lifetime. When, a month short of my 12th birthday, my father, then 38, was taken to the hospital after a massive heart attack, the only thing that could console me, keep me whole and sane as my father battled for his life in intensive care, was the compelling magic of a Wodehouse novel. To be transported to his idyllic world of erudite butlers and eccentric baronets, with its overfed pigs, billowing aunts, and harebrained attempts to pinch policemen's helmets, offered what every stressed out child needs: an alternative to reality. Woodhouse's farcically elaborate plotting, drolly literate style, and side-splitting humor were, of course, their own rewards. Dad pulled it through, and I have remained eternally grateful. Childhood is also, of course, a time for comics, and here American ones were greatly preferred to British. To an Indian child, the world portrayed in Archie or Richie Rich seemed infinitely more desirable than the Beano. The classic illustrated series was a sort of children's Reader's Digest, condensed books offering colorful capsule versions of more demanding literature from Huckleberry Finn to Around the World in 80 Days. But my favorite comics were the Belgian Tintin series, brilliantly translated by the British team of Anthea Bell and Derek Hockridge. Hedges perfectly sketched adventures of the boy reporter, his dog Snowy, and his sailor friend Captain Haddock. As clever, if not quite as thrilling, was the Asterix series, featuring an indomitable Gaulish village resisting Julius Caesar's Romans. So, mine was, all in all, an eclectic literary childhood. It is, I suppose, a uniquely Indian experience to embrace both Biggles and Birbal, Jeeves and the Jatakas, Tintin and Tenali Rama in your reading. Growing up as a reader in India left me with a vivid sense of books devoured as a source of entertainment, learning, escape, and vicarious experience. The most difficult moments of my childhood came on one day every year, the holy day of Saraswati Puja. Hindus dedicated the day to the goddess of learning through prayer and ritual, and paradoxically, by denying themselves the joys of reading or writing. Despite the most strenuous efforts, I could never master the required degree of self-denial. If I successfully pushed my books aside, I would find myself reading the fine print on the fragments of old newspaper that lined my clothes dryers. But I think the goddess forgave me these transgressions, for I continued to read and to learn from books, and now she has even allowed me to write a few of them. Thank you very much. Now some of the words used in the above passage and their meanings. I read copiously, rapidly, and indiscriminately. Copious, spelling Copious. Copious means more than enough, in large amount. Indiscriminate, Indiscriminate. Indiscriminate means not showing careful choice or planning. An abiding memory is of my mother coming into my room around 11 every night and switching off the light. Abiding memory, Abiding, abiding, Memory. Abiding memory means one that you have for a very long time. Sometimes I would wait for my parents to fall asleep in their room, then surreptitiously switch my light on again to finish the book they had interrupted. Surreptitious, Surreptitious. Surreptitious means done secretly without anyone seeing or knowing. By 9, I was launched on the adventures of the famous 5 and of 4 intrepid British teenagers. Intrepid, Intrepid. Intrepid means extremely brave and showing no fear of dangers or dangerous situations. If the stories were alien, they weren't alienated. Alienate, Alienate. Alienate means to cause someone or group of people to stop supporting and agreeing with you. Alienate means alienate. Alienate means to cause someone or group of people to stop supporting and agreeing with you. Brighton, Bunter, Biggles. That insidious imperialist Macaulay had done his work too well. Insidious, Insidious. Insidious means proceeding in a gradual, subtle way but with very harmful effects. Insidious means proceeding in a gradual, subtle way but with very harmful effects. His policies spanning a breed of Indians, the language of whose education made them a captive market for the British imagination. Spawning, SPWAN, spawn means to cause something new or many new things to grow or start suddenly. Spawn means, SPAWN, spawn means to cause something new or many new things to grow or start suddenly. What about Indian books? Sadly, I suffered a major handicap. My parents' peripatetic life. I was born in London, grew up in Bombay, and would move to Calcutta before I turned 19, cut me off from the literature of my mother tongue, Malayalam. Peripatetic. Peripatetic. Peripatetic means traveling from place to place for relatively short periods because you work in more than one place. Mark Twain and Melville's Moby Dick, also adapted for younger readers. Adapt, ADAPT, adapt means to change to suit different conditions or use. Adapt means to change to suit different conditions or use. At the age of 9, I was reading Lamb's Tales from Shakespeare and mildly expurgated Shakespeare tales. Expurgate, EXPURGATE. Expurgate means to remove parts of a piece of writing that are considered likely to cause offense. Expurgate means to remove parts of a piece of writing that are considered likely to cause offense. In the same year, an otherwise detestable teacher dictated a passage from P.G. Wodehouse. Detestable, DETESTABLE. Detestable means deserving intense dislike. To be transported to his idyllic world of erudite butlers. Idyllic, IDYLLSE. Idyllic means extremely happy, peaceful, or picturesque. Overfed pigs, bellowing aunts, and harebrained attempts to pinch policemen's helmets. Harebrained, HAREBRAINED. Harebrained means of plans or people silly or not practicable. Dud pulled through. Pull through means to survive a dangerous or difficult situation. Pull through means to survive a dangerous or difficult situation. So, mine was all in all an eclectic literary childhood. Eclectic, ECLECTIC. Eclectic means deriving ideas, style, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources. Eclectic, ECLECTIC. Eclectic means deriving ideas, styles, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources. Growing up as a reader in India left me with a vivid sense of books devoured as sources of entertainment, learning, escape, and vicarious experience. Vicarious, VICARIOUS. Vicarious means experienced as a result of watching, listening to, or reading about the activities of other people rather than by doing the activities yourself. Vicarious means experienced as a result of watching, listening to, or reading about the activities of other people rather than by doing the activities yourself. Hindus dedicated the day to the goddess of learning through prayer and ritual, and paradoxically by denying themselves the joys of reading or writing. Paradoxical, Paradoxical. Paradoxical means seemingly absurd or self-contradictory. Paradoxical means seemingly absurd or self-contradictory. But I think the goddess forgave me these transgressions. Transgression, Transgression. Transgression means an act that goes against a law, rule, or code of conduct. An offense. Transgression means an offense. Thank you very much. The above passage was written by Shashi Tharoor.